and film reels, unleavened life stretched thin by time. We cross deserts of silence, with stars in our eyes and stars in the sky. Our motto was a script, our sorrow set the sweetness of sound. Each bitter tear a lens flare, each miracle tightly wound. We didn't part seas, but we lit up the screen, made magic with shadows and gold. From Sinai to Sunset Boulevard, our stories, once whispered, were told. This is our sitter of cinema, a feast of survival and grace. The miracle isn't just that we made it, it's how we lit up the place. Place. This is our center of cinema, a feast of survival and grace. The miracle isn't just that we made it, it's how we lit up the place. It's how we lit up the place.
Right on. Right. How's everybody doing? Happy Friday. Yeah. Every for Good Friday. Happy Good Friday. We're going to have a fantastic Good Friday dinner coming up. Right. Everything is going well. And so we're going to talk, and I've been doing this Stars of David experience, and I'm learning so much about the Jewish culture. It's crazy. And I'm sort of what we don't get as Americans, you know, if you spend your whole life living in the United States, you really take for granted just how awesome we are. I'm telling you. But when you travel back and forth, like my daughter's she's going to be 15 tomorrow. Let's give it up for my little girl. But when she was smaller, I spent like over a decade in Paris, and I'm traveling back and forth now, making sure with all the immigration that everything is cool, getting it set up so she can spend her um, later her teens and her adult life coming back and forth to America with no problem. And so with me living in France, you really get a sense of how different Europeans are, and how here we're all like racism, black, white, but over there, I mean, there's like the English tell stories about just a mile down the street, and you're mortal enemies with this English tribal feudal thing that's been around for hundreds of years. So, and then you get to understand cultures in a different light. And so I'm making this parallel between the Exodus that we find in the Bible, right, with the fact that the Jewish culture came overseas, right? They were from the pogroms and the anti-Semitism that developed at the turn of the 20th century. They moved to America, and they were instrumental in creating the golden age of Hollywood. Let's give it up. And this history in cinema we really take for granted. And so I've created this Stars of David experience, which celebrates the Jewish culture, because there's all this crazy anti-Semitism, which is that's bad enough, the anti-Semitism, but when you are when you're surrounded by this cognitive dissonance, like they're trying to push the Jewish culture into this white colonialist male thing, I know, man. It's not cool, because it's the most ridiculous thing to try to take a culture who with a tip of the spear and inclusion and diversity, and you see that in the golden age of cinema, and then you relate it to scenes like this, right? So here we are in the Arab world, and they're throwing gays off of buildings, and at the same times you've got Queers for Palestine. Okay, so when you're 20 years old, when you're a young person, you have an obligation to be stupid. So with kids like this, right, if you're like, you're stupid, how ridiculous, look how stupid you are, Queers for Palestine, look, they're throwing all these gays off buildings, what do you say, right? If you see, I'm not going to spend too much time on these pictures, they're just horrific. But so here, right, they threw somebody off, a homosexual, off a building, and here they are. See these? These are stones. So the dude didn't die, so they're gonna stone him to death. And at the same time, here are these people like Queers for Palestine, right? it's cognitive dissonance. But if you we have to be the adults in the room, right? We got to be the adults in the room. We can't be like, um, you're stupid. How can you be so dumb? Look, I know you're traumatized over the war in Gaza, so I'm going to try traumatize you more by showing you pictures of, right? That's not going to work. It's just going to make things worse, even though we, as the adults in the room, know that's true. So I'm taking a different path, a different way forward, which is to celebrate the golden age of cinema, the stars of David experience. And just like Moses, right? The story of Exodus, the 20th century Jewish culture kind of lived the same sort of Exodus story. And then, Hollywood is a certain type of Mount Sinai, you know and then you have the Moses with the 10 commandments. And for America, right, diversity and inclusion is literally like our new 10 commandments. Like being racist, it's like being a a blasphemer, or when in reality, it's natural to be wary of different things, right? And it's natural to say, well, I like broccoli or I don't broccoli. It's a natural thing to be, to not be accepting of another culture. It's enlightened to be open and strong and sophisticated enough to embrace other cultures and to be open to new things. But in today's world, right, if you were to express any type of opinion, like, well, I don't really like these people, it would just be like, you're a heathen, you're going to hell, you don't believe in Jesus, you don't believe in diversity, and the Jewish culture, right? So if we look at these, let's take a quick look at these horrible images again, just really quick. So here they are throwing this poor homosexual off the building. Okay, that's happening. My point is, that's happening in the Middle East, right? Both the Jewish culture and the Islamic culture comes kind of from was born, has a history in the same area of the world. Yet the Jewish culture and the Islamic culture, as far as an inclusion and diversity are concerned, are just completely polar opposites. So you have Moses, right? Mount Sinai, the 10 Commandments. And so you have the Jewish culture exodus away from Europe to America, to Hollywood, right? And let's see if I can find my thumbnail fun nail. Where is it? Is it here? Oh, come on. I thought I had it there. I guess I didn't put it in there. All right. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So let's take a look at some of the major sort of innovators when it came, Jewish innovators that fled Europe, like Otto Preminger. Now, I am not by any means a expert on the golden age of cinema or an expert on the Jewish culture, but I am an expert in reality and logic. So you have all of these great films that are uh, he's got like this tremendous catalog, like over 50 years, 40, 50 years in film, and the anatomy of anatomy of a murder exodus. So he's got a film he did describing the Jewish journey in the Old Testament. All right. So I don't want to get a strike. I get so many strikes for, yeah. So look at the lighting, man. Look at that good looking, strong woman, right? Sexy, strong. You wouldn't see that in the Muslim world. Puritan Christians wouldn't be portraying women like that. And just look at the construction, the way things are lit. This was truly an innovation that was something that is unique to America. It's unique to the influence of these fantastic, innovative producers. And so the next one I want to show, and this is just really like brings it home to which is Billy Wilder, man. Billy Wilder was another prolific. Sunset Boulevard, Max. Max. And come on, we got Some Like It Hot. Let's take a look at Some Like It Hot. All right, so this is like 1950, man. This is like the McCarthy era before Elvis. Some Like It Hot, baby. You think Puritan Christian or Islamic fundamentalist or Greek Orthodox money would be showing this kind of look, talk about like, so, you know, to these kids, come on, Queers for Palestine. Do you think that you could be so public with this queer identity if it wasn't for the Jewish culture break tip of the spear in the early days of cinema? If it was just Puritan Christian movies or Islamic fundamentalist movies, that would have set the tone for the culture. It would have taken another 50 or 100 years for us to be so free the way we are now. And that is specifically through look, Marilyn Monroe, come on. Look how gorgeous. Look how well she's lit. I would love to paint that. Yes, Marilyn. He's doing care. Look at that, man. Come on. This is attributed to the inclusion and the diversity that the Jewish Billy Wilder had to fight to get this idea greenlit, because all the Puritan Christians that were also executive producers were like, I don't know, man. Tony Curtis and drag? Oh no. Right? And so my idea, my goal is to celebrate these movie stars, to have exhibitions where our paintings and our portraits of these movie stars are in galleries, they're on buildings, there are murals. We're showing up at the table, red carpets, looking glamorous, maybe having movie premieres, with those big lights. And these kids, right? They see us having fun like this. Queers for Palestine with the fist. What what are you fighting for? Are you fighting for more of this? They're gonna throw this guy off a building. This guy's being thrown off the building, right? It's cognitive dissonance. And the answer for me is not to call these kids stupid and to say and to use derogatory words. And obviously, if they're like recently in Chicago, there was this one incident that these Jewish kids were walking home and they got attacked. And then just recently, a few days ago, Northwestern University, they were spray painting. Yes, of course. Then you're going to get emotionally involved and be like, yo, that's got to stop. What the heck is that? When you're met with that type of activity, then of course you're going to get emotional. You're going to, you're going to be in there. But as a general sort of a way forward, I think this is a much better way. A celebration. Imagine we paint these two images or just one. Which one would I paint? I don't know. Maybe this one. Look, Tony Curtis. Oops, I'm screwing everything out. Reset. Yeah, and then this is such a hilarious movie, something like that. Anyways, so that's an idea, for my Stars of David experience. We've now got a print collection going. I hate getting my prints full of. So, yeah, I can put this right here. Oh. Let's see. So these prints, they go, we can't really see. I don't have any, my light on. There we go. These prints go from this size to like 8 inches by 8 inches. This is 3.5 by 3.5, and then the massive sort of poster size is 3 foot by 3 foot, 90 centimeters by 90 centimeters, and they are $1 standard pricing, $1 per centimeter squared for the print, which is a deal because like Picasso's 10,000 centimeters squared, and nothing he does looks as good as this, which is a real life painting. It's a heritage heirloom print that's available to adorn your wall or bureau. All right. And so what that print is saying, look, America wouldn't be America. The world wouldn't be the world with the inclusion and the diversity that was exported to cinemas around the planet, one movie at a time, through the executive producers that were prevalent, the Jewish executive producers that were prevalent in Hollywood at that time. And then, of course, we've got, let's see if I can blow past the strikes. We'll take the sound off. Okay, so this is a Casablanca. This is a homage to immigration and to, oh yeah, man, look at the craftsmanship. Peter Lorre. And so my my point is, the theme of this, I've got this, you see this, that's a fidget ring. I'm doing so many things, right, in the production, that it's easy to lose my train of thought. So when I lose my train of thought, I'm like, come on, what was I gonna say? And so here we are, Good Friday, Easter Sunday, the Seder of cinema. We're going to play next. It's a great holiday that both the Jewish cultures and the Christian cultures and the Islamic, right? Ramadan is around this time of year. Please forgive me. I'm not an expert in any of the three faces of Abraham. I'm taking this opportunity to educate myself. So let's check out. Last time I played this, I didn't get a copyright strike, so I think we're cool. So let's check out Exodus. This is a great little, 5-6 minute history lesson. And let's check it out. All right.
Book of Exodus. It's the second book of the Bible, and it picks up the storyline from the previous book, Genesis, which ended with Abraham's grandson, Jacob, leading his large family of 70 people down to Egypt. Now, Jacob's 11th son, Joseph, had been elevated to second in command over Egypt, and he had saved his whole family in a famine. And so Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, offered the family to come live there as a safe haven. And so eventually Jacob dies there in Egypt, and Joseph and all his brothers do too. About 400 years pass, and the story of the Exodus begins. Now, that name refers to the event that takes place in the first half of the book, Israel's exodus from Egypt. But the book has a second half that takes place at the foot of Mount Sinai. In this video, we'll just focus on the first half, where centuries have passed, and the Israelites were fruitful and multiplied, and they filled the land. Now, this line is a deliberate echo back, gave all humanity back in the Garden of Eden. And it reminds us of the big biblical story so far. Humanity forfeited God's blessing through sin and rebellion, and so God chose Abraham's family as the vehicle through which he would restore his blessing to all the world. But the new Pharaoh does not view Israel as a blessing. He actually thinks this growing Israelite immigrant group is a threat to his power. And so just as in Genesis, humanity rebels against God's blessing, so here Pharaoh attempts to destroy the source of God's blessing, the Israelites. He brutally enslaves them in forced labor, and then he orders that all the Israelite boys be drowned in the Nile River. Now, Pharaoh, he is the worst character in the Bible so far. His kingdom epitomizes humanity's rebellion against God. Pharaoh has so redefined good and evil according to his own interests that even the murder of innocent children has become good to him. And so Egypt has become worse than Babylon from the book of Genesis. And so now Israel cries out for help against this new Babylon, and God responds. God first turns Pharaoh's evil upside down as an Israelite mother throws her boy into the Nile River, but in a basket. And so he floats safely right down into Pharaoh's own family. He's named Moses, and he grows up to eventually become the man that God will use to defeat Pharaoh's evil. In the famous story of the burning bush, God appears to go to Pharaoh and order him to release the Israelites. And God says that he knows Pharaoh will resist, and so he will bring his judgment on Egypt in the form of plagues. Then God also says that he will harden Pharaoh's heart. And so we're introduced into the next main part of the story, the confrontation between God and Pharaoh. Now, what does this mean that God says he'll harden Pharaoh's heart? It's super important to read this section of the story really closely and in sequence. In Moses and Pharaoh's first encounter, we're told simply that Pharaoh's heart grew hard. There's no implication that God did anything. And so, in response, God sends the first set of 5 plagues, each one confronting Pharaoh and one of his Egyptian gods. And each time, Moses offers a chance for Pharaoh to humble himself and to let the Israelites go. But after each plague, we're told that Pharaoh either hardened his heart or that his heart grew hard. He's doing this of his own will. And so eventually, it's with the second set of 5 plagues that we begin to hear how God hardened Pharaoh's heart. So the point of the story seems to be this. Even though God knew that Pharaoh would resist his will, God still offered him all of these chances to do the right thing. But eventually, Pharaoh's evil reaches a point of no return. I mean, even his own advisors think that he has lost his mind. And it's at that point that God takes over and bends Pharaoh's evil towards his own redemptive purposes. God lures Pharaoh into his own destruction as he saves his people, which is what happens next. With the final plague, it's the night of Passover, and God turns the tables on Pharaoh. Just as he killed the sons of the Israelites, so God will kill the firstborn in Egypt with a final plague. But unlike Pharaoh, God provides a means of escape through the blood of the lamb. And here the story stops and introduces us in detail to the annual Israelite ritual of Passover. On the night before Israel left Egypt, they sacrificed a young, spotless lamb and painted its blood on the doorframe of their house. And when the divine plague came over Egypt, the houses covered with the blood of the lamb were passed over, and the son spared. And so every year since, the Israelites have reenacted that night to remember and to celebrate God's justice and his mercy. But Pharaoh, because of his pride and rebellion, he loses his own son, and he's compelled to finally let the Israelites go free. And so the Israelite slaves make their exodus. Sooner do they leave that Pharaoh changes his mind, and he gathers his army and chases after the Israelites for a final showdown. As the Israelites pass through the waters of the sea safely, Pharaoh charges towards his own destruction. The Exodus story concludes with the first song of praise in the Bible. It's called the Song of the Sea. And the final line declares that the Lord reigns as king. And then the song retells in poetry what the story of God's kingdom is all about. It's about how God is on a mission to confront evil in his world and to redeem those who are enslaved to evil. God is going to bring his people into the promised land where his divine presence will live among them. This story is what it looks like when God becomes king over his people. So after the Israelites sing their song, the story takes a sharp turn. The Israelites, they're trekking through the wilderness on their way to Mount Sinai, and they're hungry, they're thirsty, and they start criticizing Moses and God for even rescuing them. They say they long for the good old days in Egypt. I mean, it's crazy. So God graciously provides food and water for Israel in the wilderness, but these stories, they cast a dark shadow. And we begin to wonder, could it be that Israel's heart is just as hard as Pharaoh's? We shall see. But for now, that's the first half of the book of Exodus.
All right, first half of the book of Exodus. So, what do you think? Could the divine plague of Exodus could be like the divine plague of racism of today? You see where I'm going? Could Mount Sinai be the Hollywood of today? Could the Ten Commandments be the inclusion and diversity, which is really the fabric and identity of America? Right? And isn't that the story we need to tell these kids? Come on. That's the story we need to tell them. and we're the adults in the room, and that's what the where'd it go? That's what the Stars of David experience is all about. Celebrating the Jewish culture and their contribution to American cinema. It's changed the world forever, man. Come on. And we're just having so much fun on LinkedIn. My analytics are exploding, man. That's because the Stars of David experience is the best looking thing. The Life is a Miracle podcast, along with the Stars of David experience, is the best looking thing on the internet. And then I know for some it's like, yes, having fun. All right, well, I don't want to take all that much more of your time. I really appreciate you for stopping by. And what do you say we end with the Cedar of Cinema, combining Exodus of the Old Testament with the Exodus of immigrants from Europe to America to create this beautifully, wonderfully diverse and inclusive country. We don't know how diverse and inclusive we are until we live somewhere else. Once we live somewhere else, we're like, wow, man. All right. So we'll end with this. Shabbat Shalom. Have a great Seder. Have a great Passover. Have a great Easter. Ramadan. What am I missing? Good Friday? Yeah, Good Friday. All right. Thanks for watching. Happy holidays. See you next time.
We rose on crumbs and film reels, unleavened life stretched thin by time. We crossed deserts of silence, with stars in our eyes and stars in the sky. Our motto was a script, our sorrow set the sweetness of sound. Each bitter tear a lens flare, each miracle tightly wound. We didn't part seas, but we lit up the screen, made magic with shadows and gold. From Sinai to Sunset Boulevard, our stories, once whispered, were told. This is our Cedar of Cinema, a feast of survival and grace. The miracle isn't just that we made it, it's how we lit up the place. place. This is our center of cinema, a feast of survival and grace. The miracle isn't just that we made it, it's how we lit up the place. It's how we lit up the place.